What is going on, guys? DragonTamerBlayde here, back to some more Elder Scrolls Legends, and today we've got some more Alliance War card reveals. I think we've got like another 8 on the docket. We are just churning through them. So as usual, if you guys are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. We got 2 Elder Scrolls Legends videos a day, plus other content. Also follow me on Twitch and Twitter. Those links are down below in the description, because I like you guys, and I just want to have as much of you as possible. Please love me. But let's get on with some reviews. First up, we've got Covenant Oathman, 4-cost 2/4. With the ability, if you have a strength card in play, draw a random item from your deck, or if you have an endurance card in play, give an item in your hand +2/+2. So obviously you got some pretty decent item synergy here. I think this is a card you may consider running just in like a regular item battle mage list, just to increase that consistency. You guys have heard me talk about a few times that some of the weaknesses of items decks is just being able to consistently have both items and creatures, a solid balance of both, so you don't have all creatures and no items, because most of your creatures rely on items for synergy, and vice versa. If you have no creatures, you have nothing to equip those items to, unless they have mobilize. So Covenant Oathman does help, even just in a regular Battle Mage deck. However, stat-wise, you're talking about 2.5 Magicka worth of stats, maybe 2. A decent comparison for a stat line and effect would be like Tower Alchemist. He's 3-cost 2/4, so same stat line. Oathman costs 1 more. He draws a card and gives something +2/+2 with a double conditional, though. I don't deny that there's going to be uses for this card. I just think that for what you're paying and the actual payoff you get, you're getting a draw a card, which you could draw an item of your choice for 2 Magicka, and you get a 0/1 body. Where here you're paying 4 for a 2/4, and you need a strength to draw a random item. So obviously, I think I'd rather just play Crucible Blacksmith. And then if you have a endurance card in play as well, you can choose an item in your hand to give +2/+2 to. That's possibly decent. You can have like a 4/4 Steel Scimitar. But I just think items decks are going to be probably pretty crowded with all the new synergies we've gotten. And I don't think that this guy's going to make the cut in any 2-color items deck. And even in a tricolor items deck, I think you're probably going to have a fair amount of other better options. I'm going to give this guy like a 1.5 star rating. Maybe if you only play one item, you can play him in like a Battle Mage deck to make sure you draw that item and not have to play Crucible Blacksmith. But even then, 4 costs for a 2/4 is pretty bad feeling. There's definitely synergies here, and maybe somebody can craft the right mixture of cards in a deck that can have this guy be at his best potential. However, I really think you're going to have to be running like some sort of Ring of Imaginary Might deck to make up for the fact that this guy is a 2/4 that you're paying so much for. Next up, we've got Empire Recruiter, who was revealed by Team Rankstar. It's a 2-cost 2/3 with the Pilfer ability, summon a 1/1 recruit in the other lane. So honestly, when I first looked at this card, I wasn't super impressed, just because it's not a flashy card, but the more I think about it, the more I like this card. Obviously, this is like the new tokens colors. You got tokens. No, this wasn't the tokens deck, was it? No, it's not. But you can make a tokens deck out of this. You've got, I've seen people play Token Monk, and you've also got Token Spellsword in there. So you got a 2-cost 2/3, which is a serviceable body. You're not going to usually play a raw 2/2/3, but with a decent effect, it's passable enough. And I think this effect is passable enough. Even one swing turns this into 3/4 of total stats, which is equivalent to a 3-drop, and that's not counting all the other tokens synergies that it enables. You've got the have a creature in both lanes synergy you can think about. What else do you have? Just honestly, early game snowballing for tokens decks. This guy doesn't get firebolted. He does get executed, but he can't get firebolted. And if you've got your 5th Legion Trainer ready to go, obviously you're getting 2/1 tokens, which is pretty nice. You got colors where you can run Master of Thieves if you want to be able to pilfer twice for 2 1/1 tokens. This is just one of those things where it's a more resilient body than tokens typically have in the early game, and it also just turns on all of your different token synergies. I think this is actually a pretty powerful card. It also kind of helps with there not quite being a ton of perfect early game cards for tokens to warrant running them in a tricolor. But getting cards like this, and we've also gotten a couple other cards in the expansion so far, I think has given them enough that they can finally thrive in a tricolor. Typically, you haven't seen tricolor tokens decks yet, even though something like Tribunal may seem pretty good for it, just because there wasn't enough tokens cards to really warrant playing that tricolor. So I think we're there. I think we're there now. I'm actually going to give this card like a solid 3.5 stars, maybe even 4 if that tokens deck winds up being really good. This is just a really strong card, I think, for that deck. And it's an early game card that if it doesn't get answered can start snowballing, and it's going to demand removal, which may make your opponent no longer have removal for your 5th Legion Trainer or other early game key cards. So yeah, I like this card a lot. It's solid. It's not super overpowered. It's just really good, I think. Next up, we've got Guildsworn Bloodluster. 7-cost 4/4 with the ability Expertise, +2/+2, and battle an enemy creature in this lane. So, obviously a 7-cost 4/4 is garbage. With the Expertise, so you're paying at least one other card, and more than likely at least 1 or 2 extra Magicka. So you're paying probably between 8 and 9 Magicka in best case scenario for a 6/6 that battles and maybe survives. I think in most situations this card's probably not going to be good enough. However, there may be some usage where you slap like a breakthrough weapon, like improvised weapon on this card. That'll make this a 7/7. You can use that battle effect for some instant breakthrough damage. That's not quite horrible. However, by turn 7-ish, you're not really going to have a ton of stuff on the board that you can trade with and then survive to hope to trigger Guildsworn Bloodluster again. Especially not in the current meta. And if you are against like a much faster deck and you play Guildsworn Bloodluster, there's probably just better 7 Magicka plays that you could have. This is a bit of a nuancy card, though. I think there's probably going to be some decks that can fit this in. And if battle gets better or more support and you get more benefit for using battle, maybe this card gets a bit better. Yeah, I'm not super seeing it at the moment. This card doesn't quite do it for me. Like, rather than battle, I think like I'd rather play Belligerent Giant on 7, or even like if I have to spend 2 cards, why not play Night Talonlord, Night Shadow and Squish the Wimpy instead of this. Battle is still an incredibly strong keyword, so I don't want to completely count this card out. I just don't have a lot of faith in it at the moment. That's why I'm going to give it 2 stars. Maybe I could go up to 2.5, but as good as Battle is, I don't think this card quite does enough for you to warrant all of the investment you're going to have to put into it. And more than likely, it's either going to die during the battle, or it's going to die during the next turn, and then you spent like 8+ Magicka and 2 cards for removal, which doesn't feel great. Next up, we've got Invoker of the Hist, a 6-cost 3/6 with Veteran, Restore Your Magicka. This card is terrifying. Super, super, super terrifying. Restore Your Magicka means whatever your max Magicka is, you go back up to that amount. So if this is turn 12, I played this on turn 11, it survives, and if you're not familiar with Veteran, you need to attack, not battle, you have to attack and survive. So if I played this on 11, it survives until my turn 12. I spend all 12 Magicka, play an Odiving, whatever. Invoker of the Hist attacks and survives, I get 12 Magicka back. This just harkens back to like some of the crazy Magicka cheats you could do in Nixox combo, some of the crazy Magicka cheats that Torval Extortionist makes possible. However, Invoker of the Hist kind of does it in one card. While yes, it's a woefully understated card, this ability is incredibly strong, and I have a feeling this is going to be the kind of card that kind of either brings back Nixox combo or just spawns some other crazy combo decks on its own. This is one of those cards where even if you don't know what your opponent has in hand, if this thing hits the board, you have to remove it, because more than likely something crazy is coming your way and you don't want to be there to find out what it's going to be. I'm going to give this a 4-star rating. There's a chance that this just winds up being too slow if there's too much removal in the meta. However, the card's just too powerful to completely ignore. It won't fit in every single deck, but there's going to be some decks that exist because of this card that are just capable of doing just outright ridiculous things. Next up, we've got Grey Viper Brigand, 3-cost, 3/4 Wood Elf, with the ability Summon, draw a card for each copy of this card in your discard pile. So that means when you first play this card, it does nothing. It's a 3-cost, 3/4, which honestly, good enough body. 3-cost, 3/4 is fine, especially when you're setting up for future plays. When you summon your second one, you're going to draw 1 card, and when you summon your third, you're going to draw 2. And there's also potential for Galen or Doppelganger to put more than 2 copies in your discard pile. This is one of those cards that I think is targeted towards making dual color decks more consistent, more reliable, since in a 75 card deck, it's less likely you're going to work your way through all 3 Grey Viper Brigands. So I think this card is very strong. That's not even counting copying it with Galen or Doppelganger or anything like that. Just playing this as a 3-drop in some sort of like mid-rangey list is, I think, really good. The first time, 3-cost, 3/4 doesn't feel amazing, but like I said, it's good enough to get you by. It trades pretty well, it fights pretty well in the early game, and then every one you play after that, it gets better. A 3-cost, 3/4 with the ability draw a card is really, really good, and then obviously a 3-cost, 3/4 with the ability draw 2 cards is just ridiculous, and there's no conditionals on there besides having a discard pile. So outside of Piercing Twilight and Memory Wraith, there's not really any way your opponent can play around this. I guess Cast into Time as well. But yeah, this is a really, really strong card. It's a nice bone to toss to dual color decks to give them more hope to succeed, work their way through their deck more consistently. I'm going to give this card 3.5 stars. It's strong, promotes synergy. It's obviously not broken on its own, but very, very strong card, and rewards you for playing dual colors and lasting until the later stages of the game. Next up, we've got Alchemy. 2-cost action, give your activated supports 1 extra use. With the Empower ability, add 1 extra use. This card is really, really strong. Honestly, the only thing limiting this card is how cheap support removal is right now. To be completely honest with you, if this card didn't have Empower, I still think this is a good card. If all it did was give all of your activated supports 1 extra use, I think this card would be very strong on its own. The fact that you can Empower and gain bonus uses on top of that is so incredibly strong. It is crazy. Like I said, the only thing keeping this card down is the fact that like Dushnik is like a no downside type of card to run in your deck. Belligerent Giant's like a no downside type of card. Just support removal is so easy and so available and almost no downside at the moment. That's the only thing keeping Alchemy from being like a completely insane, crazy card. Yeah, like people play Cauldron Keeper, it gives you 1 extra use, and you can use it twice per turn, but still, like Alchemy, it's not a ridiculous thing at all to expect that you can get 2 or 3 extra uses out of this. And getting 2 or 3 extra uses onto College of Winterhold or Orb of Varamina or Goldbrand or any of those high value supports, or even like that Orsinium Forge we were talking about a couple days ago, that could be the difference maker in a game. An extra use or 2 on Orb of Varamina could give you enough extra value you need to win a game with a support deck. An extra use or 2 of Goldbrand could make sure your opponent can't get back onto the board to push you for that last bit of damage. This is a very, very strong card. And I think it's going to allow more support decks to exist than just the traditional like support mage that we've seen. Just because having multiple different ways of buffing your supports means you could maybe even sprinkle around with a tricolor support deck or that support Crusader I was joking about earlier. I think this opens up those doors to at least be explored. You still have to worry about, like I said, your supports being removed since there's no way to protect or give your supports ward at the moment. So you just got Alchemy, Cauldron Keeper, and Tower Alchemist as your 3 support enablers. So you're still risking it on that front. However, if you have enough supports to where a deck, let's say an average deck runs 3 support removal, if you have enough supports in your deck that you can survive through those 3 support removals and still have more supports to play and then get Alchemy value from, I think you can come out on top of that and get some pretty crazy value. So Alchemy is going to be a 3.5 star card as well. Only thing stopping this card from being a 4-star card or higher is, like I said, there's just too much support removal that exists in the game at the moment for supports to be super reliable. However, if a support deck pops back up, this is going to be a huge reason why. Next up, we've got Spiny Hodge Mota. It's a 4-cost 4/4 with the summon ability +4/+4 for each Spiny Hodge Mota in your discard pile. So this is another one of those cards that I think is rewarding, like a dual color mid-range type of strategy. 4-cost 4/4 isn't ideal, but you can probably live with it on curve if you had to. But more importantly, if you were running like a mid-sorcerer with Palace Conspirator or some other way of purposely discarding a card, your second Spiny Hodge Mota is a 4-cost 8/8. And if somehow you get to your third, you got a 4-cost 12/12 on your hand, and so on and so forth. So this is another one of those cards that rewards you for drawing through your deck and playing these creatures, which I obviously love. You can run some sort of like mid-range spell sword with the Grey Viper Brigand to draw faster, and your Spiny Hodge Mota to kind of get buffed as you work your way through your deck and play creatures. I like this quite a bit. I do think that it being very vulnerable to silence and removal is a little bit weak. Or not weak, but a little bit of a tick against it. However, like I said, the 4-cost 4/4 is close to serviceable enough to where I think you can get away with it. And if you happen to have like 2 of these in your hand and you could play this on 3 and 4 or 4 and 5, I think the slowness of the first one will be counteracted by the second and then some. So yeah, I'm very excited to try this card out. I think this is probably about a 3-star card, probably 3.5 stars-ish. Obviously the big stats are an eye-catcher and you're like, holy crap, that's so super strong. But you have to think about the time and card investment that it takes in order to get to that 8/8 and 12/12. I don't think it's super hard, and with some discard you can make it happen even faster. And there's even potential that maybe you find a way to discard extra copies of these, copy them with Galen, get this to like a 16/16, and go for like an OTK with Rage and improvised weapon. Since you could play this plus Rage and an improvised weapon on curve, this could potentially be a better Bog Lurcher, or even just squish the Wimpy. Being able to squish the Wimpy with a 12/12 is really, really good. Obviously, this needs the deck to support it to be super strong, which is why I'm going to say it's like a 3.5 star card. It's not going to really create any new decks on its own, but it's going to be very strong in the decks that it fits into. And finally, we've got XIV King Bane Lord. I hope I'm saying that correctly. 7-cost 1/7 with guard. Set the health of each enemy creature in this lane to 1. This card's already making me rage inside. I'm excited to play with it, but I'm already dreading playing against it. So there's some obvious synergies. Turn 9, you can play Bane Lord plus Tiny Dragon to do a full lane clear, barring any wards. You've got turn 6 Shearpoint into turn 7 Zivkin to kill everything on the board. What else do we got? It's got easy synergy with Oderner and Necromancer. The fact that this has such low attack means it can be rezzed by that, which is extra crazy, because now you might not be seeing 3 of these, because keep in mind, it is not a unique legendary, it is a regular legendary, so you can already run 3 of these, and with Necromancer you may be seeing 4, 5, 6 of these in a game. Keep in mind, it does not reduce the attack of the opposing creature, so they can still trade into this. However, depending on what you have set up, and if it's in the field lane, reducing everything to 1 and then slamming stuff in means you've got guaranteed trades of your choice. This could even create some sort of like tokeny slow deck that uses the tokens almost as removal. Really, this fits into so many different decks. It's going to be a really quality card. The only thing keeping this card down, not even down, the only thing keeping this card from being absolutely broken is that it has 1 attack and it can be Grizzly Gourmet or executed. Other than that, this card is bonkers. It'll like completely stonewall your opponent. 7 health means more than likely you're going to have to trade at least 2 of your creatures into this thing. And after the summon effect, since your creatures will only have 1 health, it means that this card is at least 2 for 1-ing, if not commonly probably 3 for 1-ing. And whatever creatures are left over also only have 1 health, so they can be easily taken out. This card is really... really strong. This card is a lock for 4 stars, and I'd probably even go as high as like 4.5 stars. This card's terrifying. It's already giving me headaches, and I haven't even had to play against it yet. man, it's gonna be some frustrating times playing against this card. But at least it's a really cool card to get your ass handed to you by. But yeah, that is going to be it for now, guys. Let me know what you guys think and what your ratings would be down below in the comments section. As always, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.